All right, let's dive into one of the all-time classics, Charles Dickens' Great Expectations. Now, this is a story that kicks off with a seriously scary moment in a graveyard, and it all builds up to this huge question about what ambition really costs you. It's all about this young orphan Pip, right? His whole life gets completely turned upside down by a secret fortune, and it all boils down to one single timeless question. And really, this question is at the very heart of the entire story. It's what drives Pip, what fuels his ambition, and it forces all of us, really, to think about the moral price tag on getting what we think we want. So let's get into it. Let's start right where Pip's journey begins, in a place that's, well, pretty desolate and honestly kind of terrifying. So here we are, Chapter 1, an encounter out in the marshes. Okay, so picture this. Pip is this young kid living with his really tough older sister and her husband, the super kind blacksmith Joe. And they live right on the edge of these bleak, misty marshes. Now, the big, scary thing looming over everything here are the hulks. And yeah, that's exactly what it sounds like. They're these massive, rotting prison ships just anchored offshore, crawling with convicts. So the fear of someone escaping, that's not just a story, it's a real everyday dread. And for Pip, that dread is about to get way too real, way too fast. And just like that, the nightmare comes true. Pip's all alone in a churchyard when, out of nowhere, an escaped convict grabs him. The man is terrifying, and he forces Pip into a secret deal. He says, "You bring me food," or whittles, as he calls it, "and a file for this leg iron. You do it, and you don't say a word to anyone." This moment, this act of being forced to steal, it just fills Pip with this massive sense of guilt that's going to stick with him for a long, long time. All right, so moving on from the marshes, Pip's world is about to get a whole lot weirder. He's called to this place called Satis House, the House of Stopped Time. So you've got these two completely different worlds pulling Pip in opposite directions. On one hand, you have the forge. It's loud, it's warm, it's real. It's the simple, honest life with Joe. But then there's Satis House. And this place is something else. It's this huge, decaying mansion that's just frozen. It's dead silent. All the clocks have been stopped for years, and everything is covered in dust and cobwebs. It's like a tomb. And it's in this bizarre, creepy house that he meets Estella. She's beautiful, but man, is she cold. She just looks down on him, making fun of his common hands and his thick work boots. And her words, they just cut him right to the bone. For the very first time in his life, Pip feels this deep, burning shame about who he is. And right there, a new desire is born. He has to become uncommon. He has to be better. Okay, so fast forward a bit. Pip's now Joe's apprentice. Looks like his life is all mapped out for him at the forge. But that ambition Estella lit inside him, oh, it's still there. And that brings us to his gentleman's fortune. So a few years go by, Pip's just hanging out at the local pub, and suddenly, everything changes. This powerful, imposing lawyer from London, a guy named Mr. Jaggers, walks in. And he's looking for Pip.
And the news he brings is just mind-blowing. Jaggers announces that Pip has great expectations. Some secret benefactor has given him a huge fortune. He's to pack his bags, leave for London, and become a gentleman. Just like that. His old life, gone.
So, the big question is, where did all this money come from? For Pip, it's a no-brainer. It has to be Miss Havisham. It just has to be. He's 100% convinced this is all her plan to make him worthy of Estella. And this, one single, totally wrong assumption, well, it's going to shape everything that happens next. So Pip moves to London and starts living the high life. And pretty soon he starts getting, well, embarrassed by his old life. He becomes a bit of a snob, honestly. When his best friend Joe, the guy who was like a father to him, comes to visit, Pip is just mortified by his country manners. And the most heartbreaking part is that Joe sees it. He sees this huge gap that's opened up between them. And he just says, I don't belong here, Pip. I'm wrong in these clothes. It's just, ouch. So years go by. Pip's a full-fledged gentleman in London, living it up. But the truth about his money is about to be revealed. And it's not going to be pretty. Picture this. It's a dark and stormy night. No, really. And there's a knock at Pip's door. A rough, older man is standing there. Pip has no idea who he is, but there's something familiar about him. something that makes his skin crawl. Pip just wants him to go away, but this guy, he's not going anywhere. And then the bombshell drops. This stranger reveals who he is. It's Magwitch, the convict from the marshes all those years ago. Turns out he was transported to Australia, made a fortune, and he spent every last penny on Pip. All of it. He's the secret benefactor. He's the one who made Pip a gentleman, all as a way to repay that one small act of kindness from a terrified little boy. I mean, just think about the difference between what Pip thought and what was real. He thought his benefactor was the high society Miss Havisham, grooming him for Estella. But the truth? His money came from Abel Magwitch, the convict. The reason wasn't marriage, it was gratitude. And the result wasn't a life of secure high society. It was a life tied to a hunted criminal. Pip's whole world, his entire identity, was built on a complete fantasy, and now it's all come crashing down. So now Pip has to pay a debt, but not the kind he was used to. He is absolutely horrified. I mean, his dream has turned into a total nightmare. Everything he built his new life on, the snobbery, the ambition, it all just evaporates. Here's the thing. Magwitch is a hunted man. He was exiled for life. So just by being back in England, he's risking the gallows. If he's caught, he will be hanged. And suddenly, all of Pip's fancy dreams about status and winning over Estella, they just disappear. They don't matter anymore. He has a new purpose, a much more urgent one. He has to save Magwitch's life. And this is where we see Pip's true redemption begin. First, he chooses loyalty. He rejects the money, but he doesn't reject the man. He puts everything on the line to try and help Magwitch escape. But the plan goes wrong. Magwitch gets captured, and just like that, Pip's fortune is gone. He loses everything, gets terribly sick, and who's there to pick up the pieces? Good old loyal Joe. He comes and nurses Pip back to health, pays off his debts, and doesn't say a single "I told you so." He shows Pip what true worth, what true character really looks like. And all of this, the loss, the sickness, the humility, it completely redefines what expectations even mean to Pip. And what you should really take away from all this is Joe's simple, powerful wisdom. He basically says that life is made up of all sorts of people, and there's a real dignity in just being who you are in your own place. Pip finally gets it. He understands that the loyalty and love from someone like Joe is worth so much more than any amount of money, and he realizes that being a true gentleman, well, it has absolutely nothing to do with your bank account and everything to do with your character. So Pip's journey was without a doubt a painful one. It was filled with humiliation and loss, but you have to ask, without it, would he have ever learned what really matters? You know, friendship, loyalty, self-worth? Which leaves us with this final, tricky question to chew on. Is it better to have these huge expectations and fail spectacularly, or to just never have them in the first place? It's a tough one, right?